The very first war. Most stories start with once upon a time, but the battle between light and darkness actually started in ancient Iran with a guy named Zoroaster. He described the ultimate boxing match between two spirits. In the blue corner, you have the wise lord, who is the uncreated creator of everything cool. In the red corner, you have the destructive spirit. Now, here's the thing. The bad guy isn't some cool god of shadows sitting on a throne. He's more like a cosmic hater. He didn't even know the good guy existed until he looked up from the abyss, saw the light, and immediately decided, I need to ruin that. It wasn't a battle for territory. It was a battle because he was jealous. The Copycat War. This war wasn't fought with laser swords or giant armies. It was a biological war. The rule was simple. The wise lord would create something awesome, and the hater would create something specifically designed to wreck it. The wise lord created the cow to give milk and help humans, so the hater created the wolf to eat the cow. The Lord created summer to keep us warm. The hater created winter just to freeze us. The Lord created clean water. The hater created stench and pollution. You start to see the pattern here. The darkness has zero imagination. It can't build anything original. It can only look at your homework, copy it, and add a bunch of mistakes to it. And just like any bad student copying homework, eventually the teacher catches you. In this story, the final exam is going to be extremely hot. The endgame. Even cosmic haters have to lose eventually. This story doesn't end with a bang, but with a river. A literal river of molten metal. At the end of time, the earth gets leveled flat, and this metal river flows over everyone. This is the ultimate vibe check. If you were a good person who told the truth that boiling lava will feel like warm milk washing over you, it actually feels nice. But if you were a liar or a villain, that metal burns the corruption right out of you. The bad spirit gets destroyed, and the world becomes perfect forever. No more wolves, no more winter, just one long, perfect summer day. While the Iranians were waiting for the lava bath, a different group called the Manichaeans came up with a much darker fantasy. In their version, the light didn't win the first round. It got eaten, literally devoured. They believed the darkness was a chaotic mess that got hungry, attacked the light, and swallowed it whole. Because of this disaster, particles of divine light are now trapped inside physical stuff. Your body and the trees and the dirt and even your lunch are basically prisons holding tiny pieces of God hostage. The entire purpose of life wasn't just to be good, it was a rescue mission to get those light sparks out of the belly of the beast. The Holy Cucumber. This is where the theology gets oddly specific. The Manichaeans believed that not all prisons were created equal. They thought that melons and cucumbers were absolutely packed with trapped light particles. They were like the batteries of the spiritual world. So the priests, who were called the elect, had a very serious job. They had to eat the cucumbers. They weren't snacking, they were working. The idea was that their holy stomachs would digest the vegetable and liberate the light. Then they would burp or breathe that light back up into the sky. It would float all the way up to the moon. That is why the moon gets bigger and brighter every month. It is literally filling up with the holy burps of priests who ate too many cucumbers. The nightly boat ride. In ancient Egypt, they didn't worry about cucumbers. They worried about the sun dying every single night. They believed the sun was a god named Ra riding a boat through the underworld, and waiting for him in the dark was Apophis. This wasn't just a big snake. He was the embodiment of pure chaos. But Apophis didn't fight like a normal monster. He didn't just try to bite the boat. He used a hypnotic stare. He would lock eyes with the crew and try to mesmerize them. If his stare worked, the boat would stop moving. And if the boat stopped, time itself would freeze. The sun would never rise again, and creation would dissolve into nothing. It was the highest stakes staring contest in history. The good guy villain Ra was the king of the gods, so he was a bit too dignified to get into a dirty street fight every night. He needed a bodyguard, so he brought his uncle Seth. Now, in every other Egyptian story, Seth is the villain. He is the god of chaos, storms, and confusion who murdered his own brother. But on the sunboat, Seth is the MVP. Why? Because only a crazy person can stare down another crazy person. Seth was the only god immune to the snake's hypnotic stare because he was made of chaos too. While everyone else was freezing up in fear, Seth stood at the front of the boat and stabbed the snake right in the face. The lesson here is simple. Sometimes, to save the world, you need a monster on your payroll. The red beer prank. But Ra didn't just deal with snakes. Once, his own daughter, the Eye of Ra, turned into a lioness named Sekhmet and decided to eat humanity. Ra knew he couldn't fight her. She was literally made of his own solar fire. So he used his brain instead. He ordered his people to brew 7,000 jars of beer. Then he dyed the beer red with crushed rocks so it looked exactly like blood. He poured it all over the fields. Sekhmet, thinking it was a delicious buffet of human blood, drank every last drop. She got so completely wasted that she passed out, forgot her rage, and woke up as a gentle cat goddess. Ra basically saved the human race by throwing the biggest keg party in history. Speaking of gods solving problems with liquids, let's move over to India, where the problem wasn't too much beer, but not enough water. Indra, Vritra. While the Egyptians were partying, the gods in India were dealing with a serious drought. A dragon named Vritra had swallowed all the rivers in the world. He was literally hoarding the earth's water supply in his belly. The king of gods, Indra, tried to fight him, but the dragon's scales were unbeatable. Indra needed a weapon harder than diamond. A nice sage named Dadichi stepped up and said, "Use my bones." He voluntarily gave up his life so his spine could be crafted into a weapon. This became the Vajra, the thunderbolt. Armed with the literal backbone of a saint, Indra smashed the dragon's head and sliced open its belly, releasing the water back to the thirsty world. Apollo versus Python. In Greece, the sun god Apollo didn't wait for backup or special spine weapons. He was born ready. And I mean that literally. Only 4 days after he was born, when most babies are still just struggling to keep their heads up, Apollo grabbed a bow and arrow and went hunting. His target was Tython, a giant slimy earth dragon that had been terrorizing his mom. Apollo tracked the beast to a cave and filled it with arrows. He didn't just kill it. He built his famous temple, the Oracle of Delphi, right on top of its grave. It was the ultimate power move. I'm going to kill you, bury you, and then build my house on top of you. The armored baby. If you think that was violent, wait until you hear about the Aztecs. Their sun god Huitzilopochtli has the craziest birth story of all time. His mother was pregnant with him, and his sister the moon got jealous. She felt that the pregnancy was shameful, so she gathered her 400 brothers who were the stars, and they all decided to march up the mountain to kill their own mom. It looked like game over. The brothers were closing in, ready to strike. But right as they got to the top, Huitzilopochtli burst out of the womb. But he wasn't a crying infant. He came out fully grown, painted for war, and wearing a full suit of armor. Imagine trying to fight a baby and he comes out ready to throw hands immediately. And he didn't just come out with armor, he came out with the most metal weapon ever invented. He was holding the Shushkawadal, which is basically a sword made out of a living turquoise fire snake. This wasn't just a sharp stick, it was a weapon of mass destruction. He used it to chop off his sister's head instantly. Then he kicked her body all the way down the mountain steps. As she rolled down, she broke apart into pieces, which is a brutal way to explain why the moon has phases and looks broken sometimes. He then chased the 400 stars away into the sky. This specific moment was so important that the Aztecs built their temples to look like that mountain. They would throw things down the steps just to replay this victory over and over again. The ball game. While the Aztecs were throwing people downstairs, the Maya down the street preferred a battle of wits. Their heroes were twins who loved playing ball, but they played so loud that they annoyed the Lords of Death who lived in the basement of the world. The Lords invited the twins down for a match, which was obviously a trap. The twins needed intel because knowing a demon's name gives you power over him, so they pulled a hair from their leg and turned it into a mosquito. The spy flew ahead and bit the first Lord. He yelled, "Ouch!" and the guy next to him said, "What is wrong?" 1 death. The mosquito bit the next guy, and his friend said, "Are you okay? 7 death?" Just like that, the twins learned all their secret names without even entering the room. The twins realized they couldn't win a fair fight against death gods, so they cheated. They actually allowed the lords to kill them, burn their bodies, and grind their bones into dust. But because they were magic, they came back to life as catfish and then as boys. They walked right back into the underworld disguised as circus performers doing amazing magic tricks. They would kill a dog and bring it back to life. They even killed each other and came back. The Lords of Death were amazed. They clapped and said, "Do us, kill us and bring us back." The twins said, "Sure thing." They chopped the lords up and then just didn't bring them back. The Lords of Death were defeated by their own stupidity. The twins proved that you don't need muscles to beat the darkness, you just need a really good bluff. The Soot Face. In the freezing Arctic, the story gets a bit more personal. The sun and moon are brother and sister. The story goes that during the long winter night, someone crept into the sister's room and attacked her. She didn't know who it was because it was pitch black. So she covered her hands in soot and oil. When he came back, she slapped him right in the face. Later, she saw her brother walking around with a black handprint on his face and realized it was him. Horrified, she grabbed a torch and ran into the sky to get away. He chased her and became the moon. That is why the moon has dark spots on it. It is literally his sister's slap mark. And because he is so focused on chasing her, he forgets to eat, which is why he gets thinner and thinner every month. While the Inuit siblings are chasing each other in the sky, let's look at a different pair of brothers who preferred to fight right here on Earth. The Shoe of Scraps. In Norse mythology, everyone knows the world ends in a giant battle called Ragnarok. The king of gods Odin gets swallowed whole by a giant wolf named Fenrir. It seems hopeless. But then comes Vidar, the silent god. He has been preparing for this moment since the beginning of time by building a shoe. Yes, a shoe. It is a massive boot made out of all the tiny leather scraps that human cobblers throw away when they make heels and toes. Vidar steps his giant reinforced boot onto the wolf's bottom jaw to hold it down. Then he grabs the top jaw and rips the beast apart. It is the most specific weapon in history. So remember, every time you throw away a piece of leather, you are helping a god build the boot that will save the universe. The Laser Eye. In Ireland, the Celts told stories about a giant named Balor who was basically a walking biological weapon. He had an evil eye that was so poisonous it destroyed anything it looked at. The eyelid was so heavy that 4 guys had to stand there with metal hooks just to crank it open like a garage door. The hero Lu didn't have a sword or a spear. He had a simple sling. He spun a stone around and launched it with perfect aim. He hit the eye so hard that physics glitched out. The stone drove the eyeball right out the back of Balor's head. The eye spun around in the air and ended up looking at Balor's own army. Since it was a laser of death, it vaporized his own troops instantly. Darkness literally defeated itself. The Black God Slavic mythology keeps it extremely simple with the names. They had the white god called Belobog and the black god called Chernobog. It sounds like a classic good versus evil setup, right? But here is the twist. Historians are pretty sure the white god is fake news. It seems that Christian monks invented him years later because they couldn't handle a religion that didn't have a clear good guy. The ancient Slavs might have only believed in the black god. They didn't pray to the light because they weren't scared of it. They only prayed to the darkness to please leave them alone. It wasn't a war, it was a protection racket. And while the Europeans were terrified of the dark people in the East, we're realizing that the light can be the real villain. When light is the bully, too many suns. In China, the problem wasn't that the sun went away. It was that too many of them showed up. One day, 10 suns decided to rise at the exact same time. The earth instantly turned into a barbecue. Crops died, and rocks started melting. The Emperor of Heaven sent a divine archer named Hao Yi to fix it. But Hao Yi didn't just scold them or ask them to leave. He drew his red bow and started blasting. He shot 9 of the suns right out of the sky. When they hit the ground, they turned into their true form, which were giant 3-legged ravens. He left 1 sun alive just to keep us warm. This proves that you can definitely have too much of a good thing. The Divine Striptease. Japan has the most fun solution to darkness in human history. The sun goddess Amaterasu got into a fight with her brother and hid inside a cave. She locked the door, and the whole universe went pitch black. The other gods tried to muscle her out, but it didn't work. So they threw a party. A goddess named Uzume flipped over a wooden bathtub and started doing a wild, funny dance on top of it. The 8 million gods laughed so hard the ground shook. The sun goddess got curious. She peeked out to see why everyone was having fun without her. As soon as she looked out, strong god grabbed her and pulled her back into the sky. They literally saved the world with a dance battle. Beating up the sun. In New Zealand, the Maori people had a different beef with the sun. It wasn't too hot, it was too fast. The sun would zoom across the sky so quickly that humans didn't have time to cook food or go fishing before it got dark again. It was basically speed running the day. A demigod named Maui decided to fix this. He didn't ask politely. He and his brothers wove ropes, hid at the edge of the world, and waited. When the sun rose, they snared him. Then Maui pulled out his weapon, not a sword, but his grandmother's magic jawbone. He beat the sun up so badly that the sun limped across the sky forever after. That is why days are long now. The weaving contest. In West Africa, the Yoruba gods didn't fight with violence. They fought with fashion. Olokun was the goddess of the dark, deep ocean, and she challenged the sky god to a contest to see who was greater. The sky god didn't even bother to show up. He just sent his messenger, a chameleon. Every time the ocean goddess wove a cloth of a magnificent color, the chameleon turned its skin to match it exactly. She realized that if the sky god's errand boy was this talented, the boss must be unbeatable. She gave up immediately. Darkness wasn't defeated by a weapon, it was defeated by a lizard with style. But sometimes winning against the darkness is actually a bad thing. The first fire. The Sand People of Africa tell a story about how humans and animals used to live together in the dark. They were best friends and could even talk to each other. But then humans got scared of the night. They broke the rules and created fire. It was the first artificial light. The humans were happy, but the fire terrified the animals. They ran away into the shadows, breaking the friendship forever. This story teaches a sad lesson. We traded our connection with nature just so we wouldn't be afraid of the dark. We got the light, but we took the L on friendship. The moon balance. Long before anyone mentioned the Force or laser swords, the ancient space monks on a planet called Tython looked up and saw two moons. One was Ashla the light moon. The other was Bogan the dark moon. Their philosophy wasn't about destroying the darkness, it was about balance. If a student got too angry, they were sent to the light moon to chill out. But, and here is the twist, if a student became too good and arrogant, they were banished to the dark moon to humble them. They understood that too much light makes you blind just as much as the dark does. You need both to see clearly. Modern battles. Harry Potter. Speaking of magic defenses, modern wizards have a very specific way of handling the dark. In the world of Harry Potter, the darkness isn't just a lack of light, it is a creature called a Dementor. These things don't just bite you, they eat your happiness. They are basically floating depression hoodies. You can't kill them with a knife or a spell because they aren't technically alive, so you use a Patronus. This isn't a laser beam. It is a shield made of pure, happy memories. The Dementor feeds on the shield instead of eating your soul. It is the only battle in history where you win by thinking about your happiest birthday party instead of thinking about violence. Dark Souls. But sometimes the writers flip the script entirely. In the video game Dark Souls, the Age of Fire sounds like the good ending, right? Wrong. It turns out the light is actually a lie. It is an artificial system kept alive by old gods who are terrified of losing their power. They trick humans into burning themselves alive just to keep the fire going. The twist is that the Dark Soul is actually the soul of humanity. We are the creatures of the dark. The gods aren't fighting evil, they are fighting us because they know that when the lights go out, it is our turn to rule. In this world, the sun is a tyrant and the dark is freedom. And that brings us to the absolute end of the universe, where the darkness doesn't want to kill you, it just wants to freeze you. Bye. The final shape. In the game, Destiny. The ultimate villain is a guy called the Witness. He doesn't want to burn the world, he wants to clean it up. He believes the light is too messy because it creates life, and life implies suffering. His goal is the final shape. Imagine a universe that is frozen perfectly still like a museum exhibit. No more death, but also no more life. No breathing, no moving, just eternal silence. It is the scariest version of darkness because it isn't evil chaos, it is perfect order. He wants to turn the entire universe into a statue just so nothing bad can ever happen again. Whether it is a holy cucumber, a magic jawbone, or a shoe made of scraps, the battle between light and darkness never actually ends. And honestly, that is a good thing, because a world with only one side would be incredibly boring. See you in the next one.